Today I'm with my professional bike mechanic, Graeme. Welcome, Graeme.
Afternoon, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you very much. He's actually done a fantastic service on my bike. I've asked pretty much, well, I would say what I think is near the impossible by going as wide as possible with these tyres. But if you want to just break down what you've done to the bike so far.
Sure. So what I would call a gold service, effectively. So full strip down of the bike, no stone left unturned. So I literally will do everything I possibly can to make the bike mechanically sound. The only thing I can't do a lot about is paint, chips, scratches, that sort of thing. So full strip down in terms of the frame will be in my work stand, take everything off it, derailleurs, cables, bar tape, handlebars come out, headsets stripped, bottom bracket, crankset, everything comes off. So it's all laid out on my bench, ready to go. And then obviously the process then begins. So with the oars, obviously we've put on some new tyres. First thing I did was service the hubs, fit the new tyres, sealant, get everything sorted there first. And then it's a case of either replacing parts or you're cleaning certain things that aren't worn but need to be effectively serviced. So it's a build back up from there kind of process. So usually when you're down to the frame, it's just the frame, everything else is mechanical.
Was there any major issue, any questionable things where you're like, oh, that doesn't look quite right and it's not standard, or did I have to?
No, nothing in particular. Big, again, this isn't the first service I've done on this bike, so I do know my way around a little bit more, and it's a bit more obvious to me when I'm working on a bike that I've worked on before. There'll be certain things that I do, or certain greases or lubricants that I use that are sort of telltale signs that I've been in here before. But no, nothing out of the ordinary. It's all reasonably straightforward for me. I've been doing this a long time, so.
So for my bike, he's put, well, we think it's the biggest tyres what can go on it.
I think it's the biggest, safest size we can put on. Yeah, you could get a wider tyre in there, but it's going to
with slicks.
Correct.
As well.
The tread makes a difference.
So well, we've got 42s on this one.
Correct. Yeah,
and we've got a tubeless setup as it was before. In fact, you did my first tubeless setup.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I didn't have one puncture with them.
There we go. That's good to hear.
I took that for the Reaver first time.
That's right.
I thought I'd be pushing my luck to go to Reaver again with the same sealant inside. So no, you've done a really good job on that. Hopefully these are going to be a little bit more comfier for me on that one there. When it comes to bikes itself, do you find, say, this is a Canyon, but when you service, say, a Trek or Specialized, did have their own quirks when it comes to the mechanical side of it?
Sometimes, but it's not necessarily per brand. For example, certain bottom brackets can be more difficult to engage with, let's say, from my perspective. Hubs is another one, different free hub body systems or different ways of working. Some are either easier to work with, from my perspective, easier to work with, or less troublesome, shall we say.
Do you have a preference, as in what you really like and what you hate?
When it comes to hubs, things like DT Swiss, like what you run with this, are definitely a preferred option, just because you see a lot less problems with them. So typically when I take one apart, I know what to expect, I know what I'm going to see, and the design of it, the clutch type system on there, it's a lot less prone to damage, and there's no pulls and springs, for example, so there's less to go wrong in that sense. When it comes to bottom brackets, I've always got to be very careful with press fit anything. And when it's carbon, again, got to be careful in that sense as well. And sometimes they can be nice and straightforward, and other times they can be a real nightmare. Seized bottom brackets is an issue that what should take a short amount of time ends up taking a long amount of time. But outside of that, no, brand-wise, not necessarily. Obviously, the sort of more commonly perceived better brands are typically just better made. You do see slight things, and it can be just basic things like threads on bottom brackets. They are better cut, or the tolerances on things are closer, so you tend to have less issues with creaking and things like that.
Oh, that's good. When it comes to bikes itself, obviously this is a gravel bike, of course. I've got all of them. I've got a road bike, as you know, and I've got mountain bikes. And have you got a preference yourself? What do you ride?
Well, I started off originally in like trials riding, like tricks and things like that, and that sort of quickly led into more and more aggressive sort of style of riding. So downhill bikes is what really got me into cycling effectively. As I got older, it hurt more when you crash and things like that, and you have rent to pay and things like this. It becomes more of a concern if you do get injured, and it's commonplace when you do that kind of riding. Road biking is a bit of a fitness thing in terms of, yes, I'm a big Cannondale fan. I've always had Cannondales throughout sort of my cycling career. it's just for fitness more than anything.
Perfect.
You know, I do keep myself fit, don't get me wrong, but road cycling at the minute is probably where I land.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to gravel, I do think that gravel bikes are what most people actually want, whether they realize it or not. The ability to sort of commute or go to work or just cover distance, it covers that ground. And then actual sort of fun off-road cycling covers that as well. So it ticks a lot of boxes, gravel cycling. But when I started, gravel wasn't a thing. It was one or the other, really.
I can imagine. I mean, that was a good decision for me. I mean, obviously road bike, it was like, should I get a gravel bike? Back when obviously gravel bikes were all the buzz, you know, it was everywhere on the internet. GCM were just pushing everything, should be a gravel bike.
Yeah.
I actually got this, and I was just, it's a good mix between road bike and a mountain bike. It isn't a mountain bike, but it can do 60-70% of what a mountain bike could, where you would normally ride it. Like you say, the safety aspect does kick in, especially as you get a little bit older. And I could go faster, I could go a little bit more daring, but you just sort of lean back a bit sometimes.
Yeah,
don't
you start to question decisions at some point.
Cool. So when it comes to obviously the bike mechanic side of it, how did you get started into it?
Originally, it was from a passion for cycling. I was lucky enough that when I was still at school, effectively, a friend of mine's older brother actually was the UK rep for Cannondale. So at the age of like 13, 14, 15, I'm getting a demo bike, a different one every weekend. And these are 4 or 5 grand brand new bikes that are way out of my sort of capabilities of owning.
Gets you interested, doesn't it?
It definitely got me interested. I got the ball rolling. That's where it all sort of started effectively, and then got to the point of work experience at school and got a sort of placement in the local bike shop, which is no longer there, unfortunately. But that was my foot in the door.
Would that be Arrow Cycles?
That's Arrow Cycles, yeah, that's where I started. Yeah, so that got my foot in the door. Saturday job led to, I genuinely remember picking up my GCSE results on my lunch break from Arrow Cycles. So
brilliant.
I was literally, the minute I could start in full-time employment in bikes, that's what I did.
Cool.
There is where I sort of learned my
Craft.
basics. Yeah. It's also where I did my SciTech training. So I'm a qualified master technician, is how SciTech grade it. I did all of that at Arrow because it was a great place to do it. You had the time to do the coursework or spend time with tutors and things like that, but you also had the bikes and the level of bikes to work on. So that's where I sort of did my initial qualifications. And I think at the time I was the youngest person to be level 2 qualified.
Wow.
So we're talking 20 odd years ago now, but like at the time, I was quite proud of that achievement. And I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. So if I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, or
that sounds
what
great.
have you.
Good location as well, because I imagine you went local around that school area.
Yes, yeah. Went to Robert Patterson as a schoolboy. And then, Arrow Cycles was literally the closest bike shop.
That's magic, that is.
It made sense.
So it does seem like you've got a bit of a preference for Cannondale.
I do, yeah. And I think it's, I've always just liked the ingenuity, I suppose. Things like the lefty fork and the head shock system are quite renowned, aren't they? But to me, that just stood out amongst every other sort of option that was on the market. You know, Cannondale in the sort of early noughties were using oversized head tubes. Now pretty much everyone uses a tapered head tube. It's pretty much a standard thing. There was things like that they were just kind of ahead of the game with, and some things they did were really crazy and didn't work, but they were always trying something. That, and like Cedric Grassi is probably my sort of favourite mountain biker ever, and because he rode for Cannondale for years, I met him a couple of times as well, so that was quite nice. There's the whole package to buy into with Cannondale.
That will obviously lead us on to the next questions. What do you currently ride? Or bike?
So bike wise, I've got myself a Cannondale R1000, just hanging up over there, and it's from 2001. Found it on eBay. Just always wanted a handmade American Cannondale because they're not made in America anymore. So there was a sort of a time limit of when they were sort of in trouble and were bought out. The production moved from America to Taiwan. So I always wanted myself like an original full alloy, just nice one. And found this one on eBay in immaculate condition. It wasn't set up for me, as in the bars were really narrow, stem was really long. I think the guy that had it was sort of crit racing on it or something along those lines, so I just kind of updated the cockpit and what have you, but everything else on it's still original, so it's still full Ultegra, the Mavic Syrian wheels SLs that are on there, it's all from 2001, and it's just in immaculate condition. That's why I like it. So
looks absolutely gorgeous as well. So this leads on to the other questions. Quick fire on this one.
Yeah.
Rim brake or disc brake?
Disc brake.
Yeah. Carbon or anything else?
Carbon.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm really surprised. I thought you'd been in titanium.
Yeah, it's like, well, titanium it's just the price of it. Like, it just puts so many people, it's in a bracket that so many people can't stretch to.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very sort of Gucci luxury sort of material to use, and you do see pretty much with every titanium frame it is really well made. But yeah, carbon technology's come on a long way. The price of it's a lot more affordable.
Certainly has. I can testify to the cheapness of carbon sometimes. I mean, I've been AliExpressing carbon bits for years. You go for a phase of trying it and then realising I'll just buy the proper thing in the end.
Yeah.
But it's good fun to do it. So next question would be, if you had an ideal bike, you know, the unobtainium bike, what you could never afford, what would it be?
Ooh.
What is the current thing? What's on your hot list?
It'd be a mountain bike.
Yep.
Something probably like an Enduro e-bike.
An e-bike?
Yeah,
I was going to say. I was going to broach the e-bike section in a minute because, I mean, I've never touched an e-bike. I know some people that do ride e-bikes and they ride it for a purpose, as in they've got knee or hips or age or something which is slowing them down from normal riding, but they still want to get out. So that's brilliant.
That's it.
But you look completely able-bodied.
I'm very able-bodied.
So is it just you don't like pushing up?
It's just the lazy part of it,
okay,
yeah. I'm pushing 40, so I like to... It was always about the speed and the ride and downhill for me, so
Fantastic.
if I can have a lightweight-ish electric mountain bike, for example, it'd be something, with price is no object, it'd be something really high-end so that weight is as low as possible. Fox forks, Shimano XTR throughout, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's going to be expensive, but I'm just lazy in terms of I much prefer the downhill side of it.
I suppose if you've got the money to waste on one, then you might as well go all in.
There you go, that's it, yeah.
So this leads on to the gearing, obviously, for a road bike and gravel bike, I suppose, ideal group set.
Road bike, I think Ultegra, and again, Di2 Ultegra as well. It doesn't necessarily about which model of it, but the Di2 from Shimano, for me, from a customer's perspective and a mechanic's perspective, it is pretty bulletproof. It very rarely goes wrong. Okay, SRAM's sort of approach with full wireless is that next level, or that's great, but again, it comes with a price. However, 105 doesn't quite come up to scratch in terms of the quality of it. Dura-Ace, for example, again,
just a bit out of reach.
It's just a little bit out of reach for most people.
It's lovely.
And you're not necessarily gaining a lot in performance, but it's weight based for me. That's where you see advantages.
Have you found the drip down sort of flow from Shimano, obviously over the years? You know,
yeah, I mean,
last year's Dura-Aces, this year's, you know, or is it like that? What in your experience?
Yeah, it does work like that. Like 26 years in the game, effectively. I remember back in sort of the noughties when, you know, your Shimano Dior, when it was 9-speed, and you had XTR that was 9-speed, years before 10-speed became popular, you would see that trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
But ultimately, price plays a part in terms of technology can come down, but things like material costs can't. So where you're using titanium, aluminium, or steel is always going to be cheaper. So Dior and 105 parts typically have more steel in there than they do aluminium or titanium. So it's where the weight comes into it, but the price is a thing as well.
What about gravel? And I suppose we better say mountain bike as well, because I know you've got a passion for that. What's your, you know, the ones what you look out for, the ones you like?
Oh, in terms of brands?
As in group sets for
group sets. Yeah, I'm the more work that SRAM do with their group sets, when it comes to mountain bike products, I would swing slightly more towards, say, SRAM than Shimano for sort of road mountain bikes, the versus of things. And it is purely down to sort of the maintenance and the sort of the simplicity of wireless group sets. Like, yes, it comes at a price, but for a mountain bike, for example, it just works so much better, and the maintenance of it in terms of people looking after it themselves, or for me doing it, it just makes a lot more sense. You've also got to bear in mind internal routing of cables is very common now, so by removing that element and just having brake hoses in there makes things a lot easier for myself and for customers, and replacing of parts, it just all makes much more sense.
That's brilliant. Now, you've been in this game for obviously a considerable amount of time. When I first caught you was at Witham St Hughes.
That's right, yeah.
And I got wind of you because someone recommended you to me, and just looking at your Instagram feed, you can see everyone who I ride and follow. They know you, they follow you, and they bring their bikes. You must have some you know, rubbish stories to tell about users, customers like me coming along and say, I've done this, and you've gone, yep, I'll take care of it. You got any scary stories for people that bring the bikes back?
Yeah, one from last year, customer's bike, Specialized Roubaix, I think it was. So carbon frame, quite old, but he'd been using it on a turbo trainer. It then been put in the shed, I think, for the summer and not really done anything with. The following year came back out for the turbo trainer. Anyway, by the time it came to me, it was in a state in terms of everything that could wear needed replacing. The scary thing is when I removed the bottom bracket, and on this particular model of Roubaix, so this isn't the same on every bike, it used an aluminium sleeve that's bonded into the frame.
Okay.
But because there'd been a lot of water sat in the down section of this cylindrical tube, it'd eaten away to the point that you could just poke it and it was just collapsing. Now, because that sleeve isn't repairable, it's not designed to come in or out. Once it's in, it's in. It's part of the frame.
Yeah.
Terminal problem. So, yeah, turbo trainers, water, the elements effectively can be a real... And it's hidden away. He had no idea that was going on. And he just hadn't had it serviced for 5 or 6 years. So.
I must admit, I put my hand up to this as well. When it comes to cleaning bikes, I'm pretty rubbish. I'll... later or next time.
You're not as bad as some of the ones I see. Yeah.
Have you got any recommendations? The ideal sort of bike mechanic would say, this is what you need to look out for. The chain, obviously. What else would you recommend?
Chain in terms of wear.
Yep.
Just for cost saving more than anything, because when it comes to chain wear, a lot of people have the assumption that when you change the chain, you change the cassette at the same time. That's not necessarily the case. The cassette will only need replacing if it's worn, and the only reason it'll become too worn is if the chain is stretched beyond a point. So just keeping an eye on your chain wear and changing your chain at regular intervals can save you the price of a cassette multiple times over. Chain tools can be a tenner, so for the sake of a tenner, it depends on your level of cassette, you can save yourself some money. In terms of the actual drivetrain itself, keeping that clean and not overly lubricated. So one thing I see a lot of is drivetrains that are really gunked up and dirty and just horrible and what have you, and it just creates extra wear and extra friction. So to keep that maintained, again, isn't that, you don't have to go crazy as in the level that I do with ultrasonic cleaners and things like that, but keeping it clean-ish will just make everything better in the long run. And brake pads, the amount of times I see bikes with brake pads that are dangerously low and the customers have no idea that they've not checked them, or they don't know how to, or they don't know what to look for, to the point that this year alone I've had multiple bikes where the brake pads have worn down to the metal. It then breaks on the rotor, then destroys the rotor. So rather than a basic set of brake pads, it can be a lot sort of worse.
You're well right with that. I think every time I brought any bike to you, pretty much every bike has had a new chain and brake pads. And we've luckily got away on this bike.
Yeah, no brake pads this time.
With the cassette as well, because for me, the most expensive part, which apart from the actual derailleur, is probably the rear cassette for me, because it's what, £150?
Yeah, it's not cheap.
So when I bring it for a service, I'm a bit cautious, because if it's a new cassette and a chain, that can be very expensive.
It just starts adding up. Yeah, and it's completely avoidable in terms of, if you know what to look for in terms of chain wear, you need a tool to do it. It's not something you can visually really look at and to determine. But they're just a cheap thing to buy as a tool. So yeah.
When it comes to, obviously not these kind of bikes, Halford special bikes, because you take any bike really, don't you?
Pretty much, yeah. Bike. I say a bike is a bike. It's not, but like in terms of me working on it, more or less it is, yeah.
So obviously you're in Brant Road now, obviously in Lincoln. Come see him. I'll put the link in the description and all the jazz to the website as well. Well worth recommended to just drop him a message with your problems, and I'm sure you'll be able to.
Happy to help.
You will do. What's obviously, how would you put yourself competitively on the price structure? Would you say you're middle road? Because I mean, there isn't competition as such, because people recommend. I mean, for me, I go with what people have recommended. They say, I've been to this chap, he's brilliant. I've been to that chap, they're okay. It's that sort of thing. So where would you put yourself on?
Price-wise, competitive, but end product, better than anybody else, in my opinion.
I think so, yeah. I think everyone I've spoken to seems to think, I don't get no negatives, let's put it that way. Everyone says, you want to go see this chap, he's good. You might have a bit of a wait if he's got a rush on, but...
In middle of the summer, up to maybe a 2-week wait at worst is what happened this summer just gone.
Yeah.
But again, if it's booked in, typically I'm working on it the day it's booked in. So the actual turnaround time is maybe 2 or 3 days at worst.
You're pretty good with me. I mean, every time I've messaged you, it's pretty much I'll drop it off today or the day after or the day after that normally, and then
it all comes down to parts, as in I carry a huge amount of stock, as in chains, cassettes. The generic bearings are tons of bearings, but if there's for that cassette, for example, I don't carry a lot of cassettes.
You wouldn't do,
So if I have to order something like that and it takes 2 or 3 days, that's the hold up. And I'll always get to a point with a bike where I can't do any more until parts X, Y, and Z turn up. So when they turn up, it should just be fit the remaining parts and crack on.
Cool. Where are you going next? Is it this building up? Is this?
Yeah, I think long term for me, it has to be effectively a bigger premises. So for me, that next step is a shop. It was originally the goal when I sort of started doing the Chainbox. However, it's almost it's a big gap now. It's a big jump. I've got a really good client base. I'm very busy all year round. Premises wise, I'm okay. Size wise, I'm okay. I don't necessarily need more space to do more work. It's just me as well. So until I've got an apprentice or something along those lines, the next step is a big one. But ultimately, when I look at the market, I've been in various parts of cycling for the last 26 years. The real area that does well is the mid to higher end type bike shop. So there is a lot of bike shops closing. There is a lot of distributors that are struggling and closing. But the guys that do well are professionals like myself that have either done it a long time or they take great pride in what they do. Yeah. And you're dealing with bikes that are probably 3 to 4 grand plus, up to the 10, 15 grand mark, because they're the kind of customers that want that level of competency as well as professionalism, as well as thoroughness of the job. And people like myself are hard to find now. It's becoming a rare sort of niche part of the industry effectively. You can go into many bike shops and find mechanics, but a lot of the time they're not there for the long haul or there for the profession of it. They're there because they're working at uni, and that's the uni type level job, or they like cycling. You walk into a bike shop, 9 times out of 10, everyone in there is a cyclist.
Of course, that's what you expect.
It's what you expect
anyway.
As well, but they just get to a point, I think, where career options are limited. So they ultimately end up not staying in the industry.
Yeah, that's true. When it comes to chains, what's your preferred lube and what's your view on wax?
Good question. And waxing, okay. So chain waxing, for example, is a very current
trend.
When you look at, say, like pro teams and how they go about it and having 10, 12 pre-waxed chains per bike.
Of course.
That's a lot of chains, that's a lot of wax, and they're doing things accordingly. Chain waxing will only last up to something around 600 miles, if not less, depending on various different things. And again, quality of the wax and different things like that. So for the regular cyclist, but not necessarily competitive cyclist, it's a lot of faffing around, and you do have to have multiple chains because you're going to take... At some point, you're best off having one on the bike and one ready to go, because cleaning it, re-waxing it, etc., takes time. It's not a quick thing to just swap them over. For some people that do it properly, it seems to work great, and they swear by it and they'll never go back. I think my view is a little bit skewed purely because I'm a mechanic and I have all the required equipment for doing it the hard way, I suppose. So for me, I wouldn't ever go down that waxing route, but that's purely because of what I do, I think. When it comes to lubricants and brands, Weld-Tight is a brand that I've used for a long time. And again, when you work in bike shops, you typically don't get a choice in what you use. You're just given something, whatever it may be. It's off the shop floor one way or another. For me, running my own workshop, I can use whatever products I want. But Weld-Tight do such a great range of products. They do a ceramic chain lube, which... The thing for me that really stands out is if I'm fitting a chain or a drivetrain or I've cleaned it, it's been in the ultrasonic cleaner, it all comes out and it's bone dry. There is no lubricant whatsoever. And when I'm shifting through gears, for example, it can be very loud and very noisy. As soon as I apply that ceramic chain lube on there, it all goes deathly quiet. And it's a great sign of like how good the lube is.
So the question is, wax on or wax off?
Ooh. Wonder what Mr. Miyagi would say. Wax off.
There you have it. Well, there we go. Thank you very much for that. It's been a good insight into your world.
You're welcome.
And as a lazy sort of rider, when it comes to cleaning up after myself, I'm glad that there are people out there who can actually do a professional job after me as well, because you know the bike wouldn't be as good as it is without a decent service. The service he did last year, and I should have done it quicker, has lasted me, what, a year almost?
Yeah,
9
probably a bit
months?
longer actually.
Might be, but yeah. So it's done a really, really good job. So thank you very much. And
My pleasure.
yeah, I'll drop a link in the description for this chap's website. You're on Instagram as well.
Yeah, pretty much every social platform I'm now on.
Fantastic. And if you catch his Instagram reels, you'll see the little breakdown on the Canyon as well. So yeah, thank you very much for viewing today. And if you do like what you see, please do drop me a like, hit the comment underneath. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.